that will cook. Soup.
Over the years, archaeologists have unearthed physical evidence that suggests that human animals were making soup as far back as 20,000 BCE. We of the modern era may take the humble bowl of soup for granted as something that's pretty basic, but when you consider the fact that Homo sapiens have been around for almost 250,000 years, soup is actually a pretty new idea. The reason for this is that boiling as a cooking technique was inconceivable until cutting-edge pottery technology made possible the invention of waterproof containers. With this in mind, it becomes clear that soup making would have been as revolutionary for our brow-ridged ancestors as the fidget spinner is to us today. Fun fact, our modern word for soup comes from the French soup, meaning broth, which means soup. Today, I'm going to be making 4 different kinds of stock, each of which require a different cook time as well as temperature. Much like the relationship between the state-corporate nexus and the rest of humanity, making stock is a purely extractive process, whereby the vessels that contain the desired resources are immersed in a relentless, high-stress environment, which over time causes them to inevitably break down and give up the goods. Now, regardless of what kind of stock you end up making, you must observe the golden rule of stock making.
Skim your scum.
Once your stock starts to boil, you'll notice that this foamy scum starts to float to the top. This is all the little bits of dirt and debris and other impurities that have been released by the hot water from all the pores and tiny crevices of the bones and vegetables that you're extracting nutrients from. Scoop it off and set it aside. You can then rebrand it as a facial scrub. See my Etsy. For the beef stock, roast some hollowed out cow bones at 425 degrees Fahrenheit until browned and then transfer to a pot. Fill it with water, put the lid on, and give it some heat. The beef stock that we're making today utilizes a technique also used in the production of tonkotsu ramen broth, which uses pig's feet. And that technique is to boil the shit out of it for at least 10 hours. The high heat causes whatever fats, cartilage, and other connective tissues still attached to the bones to dissolve and actually emulsify into the liquid, which is what gives it its milky appearance and creamy texture. For the corn stock, lube up your cob from tip to shaft and roast for a minute, just until the kernels are barely cooked. Then cut them off and reserve them for either immediate consumption or later use. Place your dekerneled corn cob cores into a pot and fill it with water. Gently simmer for about 4 to 6 hours until the liquid is golden, and then strain out the solids and set aside. For the shrimp stock, you'll need some shrimp shells and the heads of shrimps if you can find them. If they're raw like mine are, give them a quick saute in some oil until they turn pink and your place is filled with an aroma that is best described as shrimpy. When you see all your shells are pink and some fond has formed on the bottom of the pot, add your water and simmer for 30 minutes. That's it. Then strain and set aside. The chicken stock is the most complex, due to the addition of aromatics. The onions, carrots, and celery are pretty standard, but the lemongrass adds lighter citrusy notes to contrast. Like the beef bones, we're also going to roast everything to bring out those umami flavors as well as add a dark, rich color to our final product. While everything's roasting, you're going to take your lemongrass and use the back of a knife to bruise it up and thereby release more of those lemony, citrusy, aromatic notes. Once all of this is done, transfer to a pot, fill it with water, bring it to a boil, and cook for approximately 4 to 7 hours. Although the cook time, temperature, and contents will differ from stock to stock, ultimately the procedure is really the same. You're going to cook with the lid on, refilling the water level as necessary until your cook time has been elapsed, Then remove the lid to allow for more steam to escape, reduce the liquid by half, strain out the solids, and you're done. Additionally, you can refrigerate your stock to more easily remove any fats, as they will float to the top and solidify in the fridge. Well, that's it for now, folks. But make sure you stick around in the upcoming weeks when I use these magical stocks to make soup.